Good afternoon. I'm with Tom of Winning Performance here today, and Tom's going to talk us through his latest blog post on the Winning Performance website, which covers chin-ups and how to do them properly and why we do them. So I'm going to seek his expertise here, because being a bit of a novice myself, I think he can help me out. So first of all, Tom, let's start really basic. What is a chin-up?
Chin-up would be referred to as a vertical pulling movement. So you'd hang off a bar, door, implement, whatever, and you would go from arm's length and pull yourself all the way up until your chin reaches above the where your hands would be.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard terms like pull up as well. Where do these things differ?
Pull up and chin up. The two differences with that is the grip. So a pull up is a pronated grip, and a chin up would be a supinated grip. And then you've got semi-supinated, which would be a neutral grip, or palms facing each other in the middle. So pronated is pull up, so it's palms away from you. Okay. Supinated, chin up, palms towards you, and then semi-supinated chin up is in between those two. Okay. I get a few people argue that it's semi-pronated. I get that, but I've only ever used semi-supinated. So those are the three grips that we would use.
Okay, so we're talking about a chin up where I have my palms up and wrapped around the bar. Why would I do them?
Why would you do chin ups? Well, for me, chin ups are the equivalent to squats for the lower body. So they're very bang for your buck, meaning if you haven't got a lot of time, like an athlete, because they've got lots of technical work, doing chin up would get you strong in a lot of other things as well. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of transfer, a lot of a radiation effect. You've got your grip working, you've got your biceps working, as well as your lats and the major muscles of your upper back.
Okay, makes sense. And what else can they tell me?
What else can chin-ups tell you?
Mm-hmm.
In what respect do you mean?
In terms of weaknesses in my body, what perhaps I should work on.
So if we take Charles Poliquin, so Charles Poliquin's a long-term mentor of mine, passed away just over a year ago now. But he would use a theory called structural balance theory. You can go online, you can go on my website, there's a lot of the data in my articles, but if you type in Charles Poliquin and structural balance and maybe the word T-Nation, that's the website where the initial article is, you can see ratios or strength ratios between muscle groups. So his one, or the most famous one, is upper body strength ratios for an upper body sport, or male ratios for upper body dominant sport. So the most famous one would be a flat biochromial press. So it's a flat press with a slightly narrower grip than you would take for the bench press. Mm-hmm. The way I like to explain it to clients, you can get a tape measure out and literally measure the distance between your acromion and then take that, or you can just take your arms at arm's length, so at lockout, your arms or your arms will be perpendicular to the floor with the bar. Mm-hmm. So it's not out too wide and not too narrow. The main thing with going too narrow, when people would touch their thumbs and then grip around the bar, is as they come down, they would end up taking a grip that was too narrow and it put too much stress on their wrist. Anyway, that's the main indicator lift. That's right. What Charles would call the 100% marker. Mm-hmm. So whatever you can do in that lift, you should be able to do 87% in a supinated chin-up. So let's say you can take 100 kilos and you can lower it down for 4 seconds in the bench press, mm-hmm. and then press back up for 1, and that's the maximum weight you can do. That's the 1 RM that you've got. You should be able to equivalently do a 1 RM supinated chin-up with 87 kilos, which also takes into account body weight. You don't have to do body weight plus 87. Okay. So if you weighed 87 and you can only do 1 chin-up, you would be what we call structurally balanced.
Excellent.
With those 2 markers anyway.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's imagine that I'm just starting out on chin-ups. I'm probably carrying a few kilos too many at the moment. Mm-hmm. Probably got weak arms, mm-hmm. probably got weak everything. Mm-hmm. Where on earth do I start?
And therein lies what we said in the article. And if I put it as abruptly as Charles, you need to do 10 sets of not being so fat. If you're a beginner, and even if you're lean, I give you a 20 kilo dumbbell to put between your legs and go do a chin up, it's going to be infinitely harder with that 20 kilo dumbbell compared to without. So the first step is lose the body fat. Mm-hmm. The amount of people I see doing chin ups or attempting to do chin ups in the gym before they're ready is vast. And the main issue they have is excess body weight. The adipose tissue, the fat tissue, does not contract, and in this instance, it doesn't create a cushioning effect that will help you. So there's an argument to be made where body fat can actually help you. Okay, if you look at a squatter, you look at Ray Williams, he goes down into the depth of a squat, his gut pushes against his quads and helps him bounce out of the hole. So he can essentially squat more with that gut than if we took that gut away. But with a chin up, there is no cushioning effect that's going to have any benefit for performance. Even down to the point where if you have that much excess body fat, it makes your grip weaker. Okay. So it's going to affect neural drive. It's going to affect the amount of hang time you can just do on the bar. And that's due to hand thickness. So going around the bar would be the equivalent of, if you got a thicker hand, it's the equivalent of grabbing a thicker diameter. So if I gave you a normal barbell to grip with, or a normal barbell diameter to grip on, as opposed to 2 inch, 2 inch is going to be harder, so it's the same thing. But the first step with everyone is always lose body fat. So training's a small part of that. I say this all the time, lifestyle factors is what you need to look at. So we're looking at nutrition, supplementation, sleep being the basics. Concurrently though, you can strengthen up all the weak muscle groups that we usually find, i.e. biceps or brachialis, so elbow flexors or elbow flexion, shoulder stabilizers like scapular retractors, and then the lats. So because they can't do chin-ups, a lot of people stop and they go, right, well, you can't do a chin-up, do a pull-down. It's different, because in a chin-up you're pulling yourself around the bar, whereas in a pull-down you pull the bar around you. So the activation and the neural complexity of the exercise is completely different. So yes, you could do pull-downs, and yes, some people can do it really well, but a lot of people cheat and use other musculature. So if you're using other musculature, it's like, it's trying to quantify the same, like taking a leg press and saying that's the same as a squat. It's utterly complete. It's not right. It's not. It doesn't transfer as well. So what I tend to go for is I would periodize a client through a series of rows to ensure that their lats are strong enough there. So we're looking at elbow flexors, which is curls, shoulder stabilizers, and rows. That's where I'd be whilst they're losing body fat, because they can still condition and strengthen up those muscles, but there's no point in hanging them off a bar yet.
So the actual excess weight is real dead weight in the way that it isn't perhaps on a bench press and so on.
There's
going to hinder your performance.
No.
Excellent. So I've seen people using rubber bands and things like that to assist. What's your feeling?
You can't see me on the podcast, but I rolled my eyes as you said.
Yes.
Spoken about rubber bands. Not a fan of them. I think it changes the strength curve to the point where the body gets confused. I've seen people use rubber bands over and over and over, and they don't get stronger. So I'd prefer people to use eccentrics if they can do it properly. An eccentric being just do the lowering portion. But I'm not a fan of using the bands. Most people, again, they're not setting themselves. Number one, the strength curve is different. So at the bottom of the movement, it can be quite challenging for the biceps. But neurologically, you take that completely away, because at the bottom of the movement, the band is helping you through that. So you're never going to condition your biceps to contract and activate all the way through, or from the bottom up. So neurologically, it kind of screws people up, and it means that they can't progress long term. Most of the time, you'll see people when they're using a band, they're still not using the technique properly. So again, the technique and what you're going to be doing on a chin-up has to transfer. So they have to have the same kind of body positions. First of all, using it on one side doesn't make sense. You're pushing up one side of the body. One side of your body is now not stretching. So even if you were going to use a band, I'd definitely have people put either both knees or both feet through it. So both of their body is symmetrical as they go up and down.
And in terms of the coming down the drop, you might stand on a box or a chair and then lower yourself down.
Yes, we have people go from the leg platform, they jump up and then they lower themselves down, and they can just put their feet back, pop that up and jump back up again. Okay,
that's excellent. Right, so we've looked at some of the big no-nos, and actually where do I start? The answer is don't start doing a chin up. Start getting all the muscles in shape, ready for that.
There's one other big no-no, and that's for people that can do chin-ups. The big thing that I would always say, and again it came from Charles, was make sure you pause at a dead hang for 2 seconds before you initiate the chin up or pull up. You'll see people, they take less or they put a little bit of their feet into it. JT's pointing to himself, put their feet into it, which gains them momentum. So what I want is dead stop, because I know if you're hanging for 2 seconds, you cannot use anything else. Yeah, you could swing, but we're not going to be training like that. We're not interested in training kipping in this moment. But a dead hang for 2 seconds at the first rep of any pull-up or chin-up set.
Okay.
That's a big one for me.
And I've also seen people straining in the upper half of the shin, and like the whole body shaking, and what you're feeling and that sort of.
So you can break the movement down into 3 parts. So if you're weak at the bottom, you struggle at the bottom of the chin up, you can point towards the fact that elbow flexors would be weak. And again, if you go back to the structural balance scores, you can do 1 or 2 elbow flexion tests and see where those numbers are. So if you're weak at the bottom of the chin up, you can't initiate the movement. You need to do more curls and get stronger in that movement. If you're weak in the mid part, it points to the lats, so maybe more rows. If you're weak at the top part, it points to poor scapular retraction, poor scapular control. So if they're really struggling at the top, it's a case of, well, it can also be coordination. Anything could be poor coordination. They can get, the client can actually get used to doing it wrong. So they could have the right strength shoulder stabilizers, but their motor pattern's wrong. If you go all the way back to the Soviet studies, I had a conversation with Thibodeau. I always say coordination is the first part of strength, and his retort to me was that's just skill strength, or strength skill, they used to refer to it. So you can be strong, but you can be doing the motor pattern wrong. So if your coordination pattern's wrong, you're still going to present as weak, even if you are strong. So that's a case of dialing things back and ensuring that the technique's refined and worked on.
So it's always perfect technique, or not at all on the chin.
I mean, my argument would be any exercise.
Yep.
The only time I allow clients a little bit of leeway with technique is a 1RM test. They have to be conditioned to do the 1RM test anyway, and then your body's going to break down at some point. But generally, once I see a rep with technical failure in my gym, I'm like, stop, I don't care what's going on with the set. We stop it, rack it, regroup after that.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's imagine I've done all that stabilizers work and that base work, and I've lost the few kilos that I need to lose. Something more advanced, how am I going to take it up from just now being able to do the 1 or 2 chin-ups that I can?
I'm a big fan of things, so there's a few things. You could go to the rings, because they add another element of instability.
That's the gymnastic rings that are holding down. Yeah.
Gymnastic rings, yeah, because they can obviously, a bar is static, but a ring, it can go pretty much anywhere. One of the most natural variations on the rings is actually to go from a pronated grip to a supinated grip. So if that's one of the most natural, I like to challenge and do the opposite. So the hardest is to stick at a pronated grip.
Okay. Because
the added stability you have to create to keep that grip as you pull yourself up and drive your elbows back. I'm a big fan of climbers chin-ups. So a climber chin-up would be, you start the hang in the middle, maybe you've got a pronated grip, pull up wide grip. You would pull yourself up, you would take your nose, or you would kiss the palm of your left hand, you'd go back down the bottom, and then you'd repeat up to the right hand side. So you'd be pulling one side, then back down to the middle. In fact, one of the most impressive things I saw was my athlete and then coach and a long-term friend, Owen Gale. He did that exact chin up, but went across the middle. So he went from hanging, 2 second hang as always. He took 20 seconds to go up to his right hand. From his right hand, he took 20 seconds to go over the top to his left hand, and then 20 seconds back down to the middle.
Wow.
Which is one of the most impressive slow tempo chin-ups I've seen. So there's different variations you can do with climbers chin-ups. I think one of the most impressive people to do these kind of things are calisthenics experts, which Owen is. You can use towel chin-ups. So there's only a small population that really have the strength to get towards doing a bodyweight chin-up. So Owen being one of them, I've seen him do it in here. But if you want to progress into that, you could use a towel in one hand and your body, a normal grip in the other. So let's say you've got a supinated grip on the bar with your left hand. You would hold the towel, say 1 inch down from the top, and do a chin up. Then 2 inch down, 3 inch down. As you pull yourself up, you can only use so much of your right hand that's holding the towel to finish the movement up. So the lower your hand is, the more your left arm's going to be doing at the top range. So let's say it's halfway down, it's near your elbow, you pull yourself up, there's going to be a good few inches of movement where you're pretty much just pushing with one arm. That right hand is not doing that much at all, so that's a nice one. Another thing we have in our gym that you might see in other gyms now, it's the climbing wall, the pegboard, so to speak. So, again, the most impressive thing we had in here was 67-year-old male go up, down, across the left, diagonal down, and then all the way back and did it again. And he was a chin up king, that guy. Okay. But the pegboard, where you would take 2 pegs and you would climb up, take one out, climb up, take one out and climb up. So that's quite impressive as well.
So you're looking for that variety to keep getting the overall benefits of the body stability, rather than perhaps just chasing numbers. And
you can chase numbers, but you're only really going to get so far. There is going to be a genetic limit on certain people with certain body types. I'm a big fan, especially with chin-ups and pull-ups, is taking the neurological complexity and making it a completely different stimulus for the client. It's one of the numbers that's usually high. So if we go back to the structural balance theory that we were talking about at the start, with the flat press being 100, the chin-up being 87, first timers, or at least most athletes, are normally the other way around. They're not very good at pressing. So usually the chin-up is of adequate strength. So I don't want to get it stronger, because then it's going to make the numbers worse. We want balance. We don't want one number higher than the other. So I just leave it static and work the fibers in a different way, which would have an effect on stabilizers, grip forms, and other things. So we get progress elsewhere, but we don't necessarily need to make them stronger in that movement. But I would like to challenge them from a nervous system point of view. I would increase their base of the amount of exercise they're exposed to, as opposed to let's work on this one, get it stronger.
So chins is very much a means to an end, and a good.
That's why I've seen it over the last 12 years of coaching people. It's quite easy to get them up, and then it's a case of, right, you need to work on your press. I see all the time. I've seen loads of personal trainers come on courses, or I've been on courses, really good at chin ups. They've got 50 kilos, but can't press anything overhead. So it's a case of work on your weakness. Is there
a sort of number of chins that you would now say, rather than doing the numbers, add on extra weight to use a dumbbell? Or
again, I would look for the figure and go, look, you need to be balanced within your press.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't increase the weight on the supinated chin up just because I know I could. I would go, look, it's good. We would maybe do more reps. We could do other things. We could make it again neurologically more complex. But the focus would be, your chin up's good. Come to your press. So this is kind of the opposite way we started. Obviously, when we started, we're talking about people who can't even do chin ups.
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite. Now they can. It's like, well, why do you need to keep doing it?
Okay.
You're only as strong as your weakest link. Find that weakest link and work it.
So, looking through the blog, you go through the different phases. You've given very detailed training schedules, programs to actually help people move up to that advanced level. We won't go through those programs here, but is there anything you'd like to add about those programs that you'd specifically pull out?
I was trying to remember the programs now. I don't know. I'd need specific questions about the programs now. I've forgotten.
but for
I know the principles that I applied to each phase.
Yeah.
And I remember that. And that the programs are almost, because you've got the principles. My programs are for people that either have really no idea, don't know where to start, or need a little bit of a kick to, okay, this is how you would periodize it. That's why I'm putting them up there. I'm not putting them up there as a Bible. There are so many ways to skin a cat. I could rewrite those three. I think it was 3 programs. I could rewrite those programs another 20 different ways. Yeah. So I can't remember most principles.
But they're a good starting point. They're viewed as 3 different phases, depending on where you currently are and how you can progress up.
Yeah.
So
I remember now. There was an assessment for each phase and placed you on each one. Yeah, I remember now.
And so, I strongly recommend anybody listening go and have a look at those programs. There's a lot of great ideas in there, and they will definitely take you up to the next stage. I think we're drawing to a close here, Tom. Anything you'd like to add before we finish?
No. I would say that everyone needs to get to that standard that Charles always gave us, which was, including females, you need to be able to do 12 supinated chin-ups with body weight.
Okay, that's a useful metric. All right. Thank you very much for your time, Tom.
Pleasure.